Sadasivasamaarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. In the previous class, we have completed up to the 12th sloka in chapter 8. Paramatma was talking about those Nishkama Bhaktas, Nishkama Upasakas, who cannot accommodate Nirguna Parabrahma. For some reason, they cannot accommodate Nirguna Parabrahma. So, what is the solution? Should they leave the spiritual journey, or what is the solution? Paramatma is very compassionate. So he has given a way for them. Usually, the Nishkama Saguna Upasaka has two choices. One is he will cleanse his antakarnas, get this jnana yogyata, and then approach a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, and then seek self-knowledge. So, he has to undergo Sravanam for a consistently long period, and then Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Having done all the three, he becomes Jivan Mukta, and at the fall of the body, he becomes Videha Mukta. This is the phalam mentioned for jnanam. However, certain sadhakas, they cannot visualize Nirguna Parabrahma. It is very difficult also for that matter to visualize Nirguna Parabrahma. So somehow he cannot accommodate Nirguna Parabrahma. For such Nishkama Upasakas, he has got a lot of enthusiasm. He has got priority for moksham, but he cannot come to Nirguna Parabrahma. That is the only problem. So, in that case, what Paramatma says, in that case, what Paramatma advocates is, you continue the same Nishkama Saguna Ishvara Upasana throughout your life. And at the time of death, you should remember Ishvara. You should remember your favorite God. So if you remember your favorite God, if you remember Ishvara, then you go to the loka of Ishvara and get the knowledge, get the self-knowledge from the presiding deity of that loka. There you get Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. So this kind of Mukti is called Krama Mukti. This is suggested for Nishkama Saguna Ishvara Upasakas who cannot switch over to Nirguna Ishvara. So Prayana Kala Ishvara Smaranam and the method of that practice and the significance of Smaranam and also the benefit of Ishvara Smaranam, all these things were mentioned. We saw that to remember the Lord at the time of death, a person has to be Nishkama Upasaka. Upasaka means one who practices meditation on Ishvara with attributes. Therefore, we call him Saguna Ishvara Upasaka. And not only that he has to meditate on Ishvara, he also must have recognized that Ishvara is the highest goal possible. Ishvara is the topmost goal, the topmost priority in his life. So he should have vairagyam for mundane things. His top priority must be Ishvara. So we have this Ishvara Upasanam when you perform. For Ishvara Upasaka, some additional qualities are also mentioned in the previous class. That is, he must be an Ashtanga yogi. Because at the time of death, he has to bring forth prana into Hrudayam. And from there, he has to force it to Sushumna Nadi. And through Sushumna Nadi, he has to send the Sushma Sariram through Brahmarandram. And that is the path for Brahmaloka, Sukla Margam. So through Sukla Margam, the Jivi travels towards Brahmaloka and reaches Brahmaloka. So this is the procedure. Along with Nishkama Saguna Yeswara Upasana, he also must be an Ashtanga yogi. He must know how to control his body, how to control sense organs, how to control prana. All these things he must be expert. He must have practiced during his lifetime, along with Nishkama Ishvara Upasana. And then it is also said that he should be acquainted with Shastram. Because when you think of Saguna Ishvara, you should know the attributes of Ishvara. Adityavarnam tamasaf parastat. Like that, the description has come. So if he has to know Ishvara with gunas, he must be acquainted with scriptures. So he must be well versed with the scriptures. He must be an Ashtanga yogi, and he should predict the time of death, and he should bring forth the prana and send it through Brahmarandra. Besides all this, he must have Ishvara Smaranam at the time of death. For this Ishvara Smaranam, we have already discussed in the previous class how a person can do two things. There he mentioned Arjuna to perform war and also have Ishvara Chintanam. So naturally a question comes, how can a person do two things at a time? Mind is capable of doing one thing at a time. So if that be the case, what Paramatma meant is conscious mind will perform the mundane things. You will not run away from your mundane duties. You have to perform your mundane duties with your conscious mind. In your subconscious mind, Supta Chetanam, you have to remember, you have to revel in God. So this is the idea. Nishkama Upasaka remembers God at the time of death because he continuously remembers 24/7. He is in that Ishvara Chintanam at the back of his mind. In his Supta Chetanam, he is always having that Ishvara Chintanam. So according to the law which Paramatma mentioned, Yam yam bhavam smarati tam tam bhavam apnoti. As a person thinks, so he becomes. Since Nishkama Upasaka thinks of God, he becomes one with God. And how he becomes one with God, we saw before. Paramatma himself clarifies later. After death, Nishkama Upasaka will go to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, he will get Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam, because his upadhi is so sattvic, the moment Brahmaji, the Chaturmukha Brahmaji, teaches him about the absolute God, about the reality of self, reality of God, and that is the reality of the self, then he catches it up, then he understands in no time with Karpura Buddhi. The whole thing is called Krama Buddhi. So, Antakale Ishvara Swaranam will lead to Krama Mukti. This is the topic. Even though the infinite God is only one, the finite symbols representing the Lord are many. You can choose many finite symbols. They can be many as per our scriptures. Some are personal gods like Rama, Krishna, Saraswati, and Uma, and so on, which is called a Pratima Alambanam. Alambanam means a symbol which is personifying a god. Therefore, the symbols which are towards a pratima, towards an idol, is Pratima Alambanam. And there are some non-personal symbols also, which are called Pratika Alambanam. Pratika Alambanam means it doesn't, indicate a personal God, a God in human form. Like Salagrama, Shivalinga, a flame, Omkaram, all these are Pratika Alambanam. So, it is the choice of the Upasaka. Whatever he is comfortable with, he can choose the symbol and then do his Upasana. So here, Omkara Upasana is mentioned by Paramatma. Omkara Upasana is specially prescribed by Krishna Paramatma for Upasakas to go to Brahmaloka. If you think of Om at the time of death, you go to Brahmaloka. If you do not think of any Nama, you simply utter some, mundane thing, then he is not entitled to any loka. Whatever he thinks, whatever he woos during the life, if he loves money, he will be again born with, the entanglement of money. There is a story regarding this. Parvati Devi is very compassionate about these bhaktas. She said, why don't you allow this bhakta who is very much mundane, let him have that Ishvara Chintanam at the time of death. Give him moksha. So, Ishvara knows that person is not at all bhakta. He is a nastika. Still, Parvati wants him to get moksha. Then Parameswara had given a condition. Then Parameswara had put forth a condition. He said that, okay, I will give him the Loka Prapti provided he utters Ishvara Smaranam, provided he utters the name of God. So they were witnessing the person at the time of death. Paramatma said, if he says, Amma, you take care of him. If he says, Ayya, I will take care of him. But the person said, Ayu, which has no name of God. So this is the, affair of a mundane person who doesn't care about the spirituality, who is always interested in mundane things and mundane accomplishments. So, this is the thing. Regarding Omkara meditation, the Omkara meditation is a pratika upasana. If one does this Omkara meditation and dies with the utterance of Omkara, he can go to Brahmaloka. That is what the scriptures say. The Omkara is very powerful. Omkara is mentioned in almost all Upanishads. The glory of Omkara is mentioned in Santi Mantras. Devatas went to Brahmaji, Chaturmukha Brahmaji, and they prayed him and said that the Vedas are, and said that Vedas are very long, very elaborate, very vast. We are unable to memorize. So give us some shortcut. Then Chaturmukha Brahmaji closed the eyes and 3 Vyakrutis came out of his mouth. They are Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha. He said, you utter this. They said, this is also too big for us. Then he said, A, O, Ma. When you join them, A, O, Ma, it becomes Om. This Omkaram is Ekaksharam. And that is the name of God. If you want to address God, Om is the one simple way of addressing God. So, all scriptures, they are very much, in favor of Omkara meditation. Omkara meditation, Omkara Upasanam is very much highlighted even in Mundakopanishad. Mundakopanishad, we have the complete analysis of Omkara. All these Akara, Bukara, Makara, they represent 3 avasthas, and the silence after that is supposed to be the representation of that God. So like that, Omkara is mentioned almost in all Upanishads. It is very, very important Ekaksharam. So we will see the sloka here. Om Mityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Ma Manusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramangatim. Om Iti Ekaksharam. Om Iti Ekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran Yaha Deham Tyajan Prayati Saha Mam Gatim Yati. Vyaharan means uttering. Ekaksharam Om Iti, the monosyllable Omkara, which is Brahma. Anusmaran Mam, remembering me. Saha Yaha Prayati, one who departs this loka, one who leaves the body. Tyajan Deham, leaving the body, one who departs this loka. Tyajan Deham Saha Yaha Prayati. Yati Paramam Gatim, attains the supreme goal, attains me, the ultimate. That is what Paramatma is assuring. Uttering the monosyllable Om, which is the name of Brahman, and remembering me, if one departs, leaving the body, attains the supreme goal. So, what does this Nishkama Omkara Upasaka will do at the time of death is the topic. We should remember one thing. the Upasaka has never come to Nirguna Ishvara Vichara. He has not come to Vedanta Jnanam. Therefore, he does not have Aham Brahmasmi knowledge. Therefore, from Vedantic angle, this person will come under Ajnani only. Even though he is a very informed person with regard to all other things. So, this Upasaka, he utters Omkaram at the time of death. So, when he utters Omkaram at the time of death, he goes to Brahmaloka, the highest loka, Param. Word is used. Param means the highest loka, that is Brahmaloka. So, Om iti Vyaharan, Ekaksharam Brahma, the monosyllable Omkara, if he utters, so Ekakshara means a word with one syllable. So, if he utters Anusmaran, by remembering this name, if he leaves the body, then he is entitled, he goes to the Brahmaloka. Param Gatim, Sahayati Param Gatim. Such jiva travels towards the highest goal of life. They lead Krama Mukti. So the travel is towards the Krama Mukti. When he goes to Brahmaloka, Chaturmukha Brahmaji teaches him the self-knowledge and liberates him. So, this is the slokam. Now, we will proceed to the 14th sloka. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityasaha tasyaham sulabah pardha nityayuktasya yoginaha. He Pardha, yaha nityasaha ananyachetaha san mam satatam smarati tasya nityayuktasya yoginaha aham sulabha asmi. So, here Paramatma is giving a clue. He is saying aham sulabha, I am easily accessible. Tasya yoginaha, to that yogi. Nitya yuktaha, who is ever steadfast. Yaha smarati satatam, one who always remembers me. Ananya chetaha. Ananya chetaha means with an undistracted mind. I am easily available to that yogi who is ever steadfast, who constantly and continuously remembers me, and always with an undistracted mind. So, the question is, how all these things are possible, especially at the time of death? Paramatma gives answer for this, which he has already dealt before. It is by mere abhyasa, at the time of remembering the fact that everything that I am associated with belongs to the Lord alone. I have given an opportunity to use the things here. All the property belongs to God. So, if I remember him, he is the topmost priority to the Upasaka. He trains his mind in such a way that he remembers him and revere in his tattva. Then automatically his mind is soaked with Ishvara Tattvam and Ishvara Nama, and automatically it comes at the time of death. At the time of separation also, it pops up. Because that is the only thinking he entertained. Therefore, the Lord has to take care of everyone because I have handed over everything to God. And God is the only priority to me. So God takes care of everything. He takes care of your remembrance. And He sees that you remember His name at the time of death. Yaha mam nityam sparati, the one who always remembers. If you have a practice of regularly chanting a mantra, you must have noticed when your mind is resting, automatically the mantra rolls without your knowledge, involuntarily. The same thing happens for this kind of sadhaka because he is so much soaked with the nama, yaha mam nityasaha smarati, regularly remembers me. That is why one has to take up a nama and chant it. That namasmaranam, japam is a very, very useful and important. So, if you have not started japam, take up, that is a very important faculty. Ananya chetaha. Ananya chetaha means without being distracted, without being sidetracked by incidental roles. I am father, I am husband, I am a guru, I am a shishya. All these are only mere roles. So don't be carried away by these roles. So you always concentrate on Ishvara. Ishvara Chintanam is the topmost priority, and you have to continue that Chintanam throughout your life. And so when you do that, automatically the nama comes. So Paramatma assures, Aham Sulabhaha Asmi. So I am easily accessible to him. I am readily available for him at the time of death. For such an excellent upasaka, I am readily available. Nitya yuktasya yoginaha. It is easy for that upasaka who is nitya yukta, who is ever integrated, ever balanced, ever clear about his priorities in life. And yoginaha, who is a seeker of God. So here, yogi means upasaka yogi. He is the upasaka. So we will proceed to sloka number 15. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayamashasvatam napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramangataha. Upetya mam, having attained me, mahatmanaha, those great souls, na apnuvanti, do not take punarjanma. They will not be born again. They are free from this chakram, free from this wheel of birth and death. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam cycle will not be there. Asasvatam dukkhalayam gataha samsiddhim paramam. So, which is ephemeral and abode of misery, they have attained liberation, the ultimate. The samsara is asasvatam. He is talking about samsara, which is asasvatam, and dukkhalayam. It is alayam for dukkham. They have attained samsiddhim paramam. They have attained liberation, which is the ultimate. They are free from the cycle of birth and death. They are free from dukkham. They are free from this, temporary life, which is, fleeting. So they attain the ultimate infinity. So, with the previous verse, Paramatma concludes his answer to the 7th question. Arjuna regarding the Antakala Ishvara Smaranam. Now, in the following verses, he wants to deal some important topics connected with this topic. So, Prasanga Vasat, he is bringing certain new topics. So, from this 15th till 22nd, Paramatma wants to talk two types of human goals. Two types of possible human goals. One human goal he calls God. The other human goal he calls it the world. You can understand them as finite goal and infinite goal. The spiritual goal and the material goal. He wants to point out that an intelligent person will always have the infinite goal, the spiritual goal, the Paramadhika Lakshyam, which is the topmost priority for him. Whereas the Ajnanis, the unintelligent people, they hover around the mundane things. They are lured by this world. They think that the world is ultimate. And then they get into the trap, which is dukkhalayam, asasvatam. So here, Paramatma is comparing the world with alayam, which is having dukkham. We have heard about Krishnalayam, Ramalayam, then Devi Alayam, all these alayams we know. But Paramatma coined a new word called Dukkhalayam, which is nothing but samsara. The very world itself is Dukkhalayam. What is special about Alayam, Krishnalayam or Ramalayam? There, one thing is permanent. That is Rama resides there. Rama is permanent in that Alayam. People come and go, but Rama stays. So in the same way, in samsara, the dukkham is permanent feature. The anandam comes and goes. It is a fleeting affair, but dukkham is a permanent thing. So samsaram is a dukkhalayam, Paramatma wants to say. So there are three doshas in this entire world, as you all know. The first dosha is the samsara is packed with dukkham. Samsara is always packed with dukkham. And whatever the happiness you get, the happiness is only fleeting. Because to get that happiness, you have to toil a lot. Arjane dukkham. Then once you get that happiness by acquiring a thing of your choice, then you have to struggle to maintain it, struggle to keep it. That is rakshane dukkham. Then a time comes, it slips away from you. Nase dukkham. So in all three stages, you have dukkham only. Arjane dukkham, rakshane dukkham, nase dukkham. So the samsara is having potential dukkham waiting every time. The second dosha is atruptikaratvam. The people are never happy. People are always, having that I want more, I want more, I want. This wanting continues. A person may be having 6 bungalows in Chennai and 4 cars, all, limousines, all top class cars. But he says he is a middle class one. Because he always compares with Bill Gates. So that atruptikaratvam is always there. A person is never happy. That is why, though very young, an young lad, Nachiketa says, na vittena tarpaniyaha manushyaha. So he said, by money, people are never happy and never content. They want more and more and more and more. The third and final one is bandhakatvam. Everything binds you. People bind you, places bind you, and so the bandhakatvam is another defect in this world. You don't want to leave your people, you don't want to leave the place. But unfortunately, a day comes, you have to leave your property, your money, your people, your place, everything. And that is the final day, which is inevitable. So this bandhakatvam is another big obstacle which people cannot avoid. Dukkha-misritatvam, atruptikaratvam and bandhakatvam, these are the three doshas which are prevalent in the samsara. That is why Paramatma coined a special word and said samsaram is dukkhalayam. He said it is asasvatam. So mam upetya mahatmanaha. Those mahatmas who attain me, they will not get this kind of difficulties. Punarjanma na apnuvanti. They will not get punarjanma. They are free from this cycle. So they are not fancied by finite goals. They are always confocal to the infinite goal. So they are free from this dukkhalaya. Paramam samsiddhim gataha. They always accomplish the highest goal. That is the moksham. So we'll see the 16th sloka. As I told you, Paramatma is introducing the new topics from 15th onwards. So the new topic here is the lokas. All 14 lokas are not permanent. Brahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. Brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartino arjuna mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. Hey Arjuna, Brahma bhuvanat sarve lokaha punaha avartinaha santi. He kaunteya mamupetyatu punaha janma na vidyate. So Paramatma is talking about a new topic. O Arjuna, all the worlds up to Brahmaloka, Brahma bhuvanat. So all the lokas up to Brahmaloka, punaravartinaha, subject to return. Subject to return means they go to bijam, that is avyaktam, and again they manifest. To upetya mam vidyate na punarjanma. But those who have attained me, they will not take the rebirth. So all the worlds, O Arjuna, including the highest loka, Brahma loka, are subject to return. But after attaining me, there is no rebirth. So here Paramatma is giving an idea about moksha. Until you come to Vedanta, until you come to Bhagavad Gita, you have an idea, you form an idea that going to a loka is moksha. Majority of the people think that going to Swargaloka is moksha, which is not true. Because the moment you go to Swargaloka, you start spending away your prarabdham. Once your prarabdham is over, then you will be thrown to the lokas. Either this loka or the lokas beneath this. So, that is the thing. Earlier, before coming to Bhagavad Gita or before coming to Vedanta, people do not know this. People think that going to Sargaloka is ultimate. That is what people describe in Puranas, which is not correct. Because in Puranas, they only attract you towards spirituality. The ultimate reality is there in the scriptures, which are Vedas. And the Veda Saram is Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita clearly says all 14 lokas are subject to return. Subject to return means they are now in the manifest form, they go to unmanifest form. Unmanifest, manifest, unmanifest, manifest. This is what is happening. So here, all the lokas, subject to modification. Modification means they resolve into that bijam. They resolve into bija form, the seed form, when pralayam comes. So when srishti takes place, again they emerge. So like that, all the lokas are, they are subject to change. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartinaha. Punaravartinaha means they are subject to, return. They go to avyaktam and becomes vyaktam during srishti. During pralayam they become unmanifest. During srishti they become manifest. But the jiva who has attained me will never return. So going to loka is not the moksha. The saving grace is if you go to higher loka like Brahma loka, there Brahmaji takes care of you. Because he knows Vedam, because all his 4 heads, they represent Vedas. So he can teach you the Atma Vidya very clearly, and by absorbing that Atma Vidya, staying in that Nishtha, you get Jivan Mukti there in the Brahma Loka and then Videha Mukti after. So this is the thing. We have got 14 lokas: Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka. Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, Maharloka, Tapoloka, Janaloka, Satyaloka. These are the higher lokas. Satyaloka is the Brahma Loka, where the presiding deity is Brahma. And the lokas beneath earth, there are 7. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Talatala, Patala. So these are the 7 lokas beneath the earth, which are, very troublesome, which give you a lot of pain and sorrow. So the lokas beneath the earth are, the lokas of punishment. The lokas above the earth are the lokas of pleasure. If you earn lot of punyam, you are entitled to higher lokas. If you earn lot of papam, you are entitled to the lower lokas. So this way, the jiva oscillates between the higher lokas and lower lokas. If the papam and punyam are, equal in proportion, like 51-49 and 50-50, like that, if they are almost equal, then he takes birth in the Mathyalokam, that is the earth. And this is the only place where you can get out of this cycle. So one must be very, very careful. One should not while away the time when he has taken the human birth. He should understand this and make use of this precious gift, the human birth. So at this age, at this human birth, so if you realize and stay in that nishta, you get the moksha here and now. In this portion, we discussed about the Pratika Upasanam and Pratima Upasanam. Especially the Pratika Upasanam mentioned here is Omkara Upasanam. Om iti ekaksharam Brahma. So, if a Upasaka meditates Brahma in Omkara, and if he remembers at the time of death, if he chants that Omkara, he can reach that Brahma Loka. This is the promise given by Krishna Paramatma. So, the Pratika Upasana with Omkara is suggested here. Then, if a person always revels in God and spends his time in Saguna Ishvara Dhyanam, though he has not come to Nirguna Ishvara, he can remember my name at the time of death, because that has become a kind of subconscious mind. In subconscious mind, he always remembers me and he always revels in me. So automatically at the time of death, he can remember me, my name very easily. So Paramatma said that Tasyaham Sulabhaha Asmi. So for such a devoted, committed meditator, I am easily available for him. Paramatma himself is declaring. Paramatma says that I am available for such a wonderful bhakta at the time of death, because he is not distracted. He is not worried about mundane things. His topmost priority is God. God and God alone is his priority. So he can easily remember me at the time of death. That is what he said. And then he also used a typical word for samsara. Samsaram is dukkhalayam. This is often quoted by Swamiji. Whenever samsaram word comes, immediately Swamiji remembers this sloka. So Paramatma declared that this samsaram is dukkhalayam. It is potentially painful and causes dukkham. So you may think that it is giving a lot of pleasure, lot of anandam, but all that is fleeting. Everything is very temporary, and you never know when you get sorrow. So we have mentioned three kinds of doshas. That samsaram is dukkha misritatvam. Samsaram creates bandhakatvam. Samsaram creates atruptikaratvam. So, bandhakatvam, dukkha misritatvam, atruptikaratvam are the three doshas in this. You can never get permanent happiness, permanent peace, permanent security in samsara. Samsara can never promise you the permanent happiness, permanent peace, and permanent security. So, these are the things mentioned by Paramatma, and he also opened up a new topic, that is Abrahma Bhuvanar Loka Punaravartinaha Arjuna. So, he has given a kind of new information for most of the people who are not exposed to the Shastra, because those who do not have an exposure to Shastra think that going to Swargaloka is getting moksha. Here Paramatma clearly says all the lokas will crumble into avyaktam. They become unmanifest. That is all 14 lokas, starting from Bhuloka up to Bhuvarloka, the highest loka, they all become avyaktam. They resolve into that maya. So the entire 14 lokas, they vanish at the time of pralayam. So staying in a loka permanently is also not assured, because for that matter no loka is permanent according to this loka. This is an eye-opener, because majority of the people think that going to a loka is a solution to avoid the samsara chakram. So that is not true. So Brahma Bhuvana Loka. So all the lokas, including Brahma Loka, they are subject to destruction. They become unmanifest. So this is what Paramatma gave in a capsule form. So that's what Paramatma says in this slokas. More in the next class. Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om